All right, before we get into this, talk to me. Anybody got something to share for the good of the group? Let's come a little bit clearer. Ain't no message there. Nah, go ahead.
And it's gonna be in order. So in my dad's passing, in preparing for his funeral and stuff, we had to go to the cemetery, cemetery. And we found out that he had already paid for my mother's plot. Like her opening, her closing, and all of that. And they've been divorced since I was 16. But what God has been showing me and reminding me of is that, vows and how you look is to death do you part. And even though they were divorced, he still, in his death, expressed his love for her. And so God is just reminding me, like, that's how I love.
Yeah.
Like, all day today, I've just been hearing that's how I love Tamara, you know? So, it helps me in so many areas of my life where I wanna be selfish or stingy or whatever, but it's also helping me to see that there is nothing I can do, like his word says, there's nothing you can do to separate yourself from my love. Yeah. And so I'm seeing it, the older I get, I'm just seeing how scriptures are really just manifesting in my life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Whether it be an action, in thought, or whatever, his scriptures are, they're living in me, if that makes sense. So,
It becomes harder to deny.
yeah, it really does. And so that's just encouragement for anybody and everybody to just help us to trust God's word even more. And to take our relationship with him serious, because he really is for us.
Anybody else? Christine?
What I held on to from the message so far this week is not being distracted. And so many things have come already this week to distract me, but what God is and the Holy Spirit are showing me are those things that have a tendency to pull at me and pull me away from my goals, what God has already told me to do, to stay focused on. And I just took the time to reflect on years past when I said I would do this, that, or the other thing. And I just realized I'm realizing now what things are causing me to go astray. And so that's what really stuck out to me from Sunday. It's really helped me so far this week. And something I'll hold on to for the rest of the year.
That really ought to be a prayer of ours in terms of, Lord, show me my tendencies, no matter how subtle they be. Because truth be told, oftentimes we don't realize how far we've drifted off until we're way off.
Right.
And then we ask the question, how in the world did I get so far off? Again, we have the enemy, scripture says in Genesis 3:1, that the enemy is the most subtle creation of God. It also references his high intellect. And so he does not want to come at you with clanging cymbals and glaring lights. His effectiveness, especially as you go deep in the word, is to be more and more subtle, to pull you away from your mission, oftentimes by distracting you with good. See, because you've been with God enough now where you know if I'm leaving God's assignment for sin.
Right.
Amen. Amen. Y'all know that now, right? But the trick of it is to get you to become weary and well doing. I did something that seemed well, it just wasn't my assignment.
Right.
Does it make sense? And we feel noble in doing that because it's a good thing. But in actuality, you're in the doer's way. The person who's supposed to take responsibility of that. And see, if you understand how challenging it is for you to step up in your own call, you'll begin to realize that by me doing somebody else's job, I gave them an out. If somebody gives you an out for yours, 9 times times out of 10, you took it. Right? And you got deep and spiritual in many cases, you say, well, it just ain't my season. This ain't my time. The Lord's had a ram in the bush, whatever you want to use. But no, you just didn't do your assignment. Make sense? Bill, catch him?
Yes, sir. The part where you mentioned about the bullseye.
Yes, sir.
And I was a praise and worship. I was thinking about a lot of things in my life that I want to change, I want to do different. And it was like, well, do it. So I was just thinking about the bullseye. Fox had been getting our chickens, right? So I went outside. There he was, fox, trying to got one. I didn't have no thing on me. And it took off. You know, when you're hunting or whatever, animals, they don't usually run a straight line. They dart, so you can't get them. So it was just, in my mind, was like, you gotta keep moving. You gotta be a hearer and a doer. You know, so it was just, that whole thing, I just kept thinking about that fox. You know, just hunting. When a deer takes off, they move around, so you can't hit a little across the top. You just gotta keep plugging and keep applying.
You know, guys, sometimes when we think God took you on a detour, he actually moved the target. You know, because you're like, can I just keep a straight line, God? No. The detour preserved you. Because and really that's what was happening with the children of Israel. He was preserved. They didn't have the character for Canaan. Does that make sense to you? So we have to be careful about complaining when it seems like God added a side street to your life. A lot of times that's for your own preservation. Make sense to you? All right, anybody else before we break this down? Let's get on into this. Jasmine, y'all ready? Can y'all see? All right, let's get this. We started this thing out Sunday. And again, I'm talking to leaders, I'm talking to people who are already doing what God is telling them to do or contemplating doing it, trying to overcome your anxiety. And so I love David because David's writings are very real. Hear my voice, O God, in my prayer. Preserve my life. That's King James. Let me get the NASB. For the quiet director, the Psalm of David. Hear my voice, O God, in my complaint. Preserve my life from dread of my enemies. Hide me from the secret counsel of evildoers, from the tumult of those who do iniquity, who have sharpened their tongue like a sword. They aim bitter speech as their arrow. They shoot from concealment at the blameless. Suddenly they shoot at him and do not fear. They hold fast to themselves an evil purpose. They talk of laying snares secretly. They say, who can see them? They devise injustices, saying, we are ready with a well-conceived plot. For the inward thought and the heart of a man are deep. God will shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly they will be wounded, so they will make him stumble. Their own tongue is against them. All who see them will shake their head. Then all men will fear, and they will declare the work of God, and will consider what he has done. The righteous man will be glad in the Lord. The man who did what he ought to do will be glad in the Lord. And he will take refuge in him, and all the upright in heart will glory. Big blessing. Big bullseye, big God. Anybody still asking God for big blessings? Oh, y'all been pumped out. You used to be asking for steak, now you're saying, God, I'll take some steak. Anybody know steak?
Yes.
God, just break me off a little piece. No. I want big blessings. Blessings are what? Instructions. I want God to trust me with instructions, with the how-to of things. Because truth be told, your fear is based on not knowing how. And so God is saying, I'm going to show you how. You just have to execute. But please understand this. We are in a world where there is an enemy contending with the glory of God. Meaning that he wants you to look like him more than you look like God. And so the bigger the blessing, the more attention you bring to yourself. Because the blessing will pull you into activation and you'll begin to do something. If you ain't doing anything, you're not a threat. If you're not doing anything, you're not a threat. But the moment you start moving in the direction of God, you start creating a shift in the world that we live in, shifting it over into the image of God. And so it's going to create a bullseye. But last but not least, please understand, God does not send you anywhere that he does not go ahead of you. So, it was the initial challenge. Why does God send you to places that are already occupied? He's called you to something. As I said in the sermon, he didn't, Israel had 40 years, they could have built a city in the wilderness. No, the original plan was to go get something that's already occupied. Why does God do that to you? Why does he make it that hard to you? Number one, you get to Canaan and you see people already there. You get to your promise. God told you what he wants you to do. People are already doing something similar. Here's the first shift in your character that has to take place. You are not competing. You're not competing. That's how we come in and we begin to tear up stuff.
Yeah.
Because you show up in a competitive mode. I need my voice to be at the same level as you. That's the same. Now, whose glory is that? How so? Whenever you're needlessly competing, you're practicing the practice of Satan. I want to be right beside God. You show up where there's a headship already established, a leadership already established, you show up to compete against it. That's not glory. That's not God's reputation. That's the glory of the enemy. You are not competing. You are completing. Completing. You have within you a missing piece to this whole mosaic that God calls the kingdom. And if you understand this, hear me, people. If I know I'm completing, that makes me instantly valuable. I don't have to compete for value. I just have to be me. Because I showed up doing the part that God has called me to do. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. So even if my product looks similar, it has some distinction to it because it came through me.
That's good.
Nobody has had my experience. Nobody has my relationship with God. Nobody has gone through the processes that have changed me. So I'm coming to the equation to add additional flavor to it. It's kind of like a vegetable soup. You can see everything in there, but everything adds its own contribution to the overall thing. But you can still see the carrots. You can still see the beans. You don't have to disappear in the whole process of things. You are needed. And when I know that, I don't have to fight for value, just my presence. Because nobody does it like I do. Does that make sense? I don't have to stand before you try to imitate anybody that I know, read, or study. I have to present God in a window package. I don't need to say, get ready, get ready, get ready. It don't even sound right coming out of me. I do me. Watch this. When I do me, when you do you, you become what's called authentic. Right? The root word in the word authentic is the same root word that's in the word authority. You have no power pretending. Your authority comes through your authenticity. Because it makes me unique. It makes me me. Does it make sense? God in his ability, how many verses of you did he make? How valuable is that? When you study the concept of value, why is the Mona Lisa worth so much? It ain't like it's just the best piece of artwork.
That's good.
Leonardo da Vinci only made, the more rarer thing is, the higher its value. Does that make sense to you? You pay so much for diamonds because you gotta go find a thing, it's laid out in the streets. Ain't nobody walking around picking up sand saying, this is how much you gonna take for it. It's everywhere. So when you try to be like everybody else, you just diminish your value because now you made yourself common. So it behooves you to pursue your own righteousness and trust how God has uniquely made you so that you can begin to pull your value outside of it. And so God will send you somewhere where you see things, see competition, see giants, and you still got to realize I'm valuable. Does it make sense to you? He's changing our previous condition from our former father. When you show up somewhere where it's already preoccupied and some people don't even care that you showed up because there's nothing going to happen, here's what makes life easier. Your gift will turn natural enemies into allies. Solomon was born into enemies because of what? His daddy. Solomon didn't just inherit the kingdom, Solomon inherited his daddy's enemies. But the thing that separated Solomon from his daddy is that he developed his gift. And so his daddy was a fighter, Solomon was a scholar. So his daddy's enemies would come to sit at his foot because they recognized his gift. Here's what's so incredible about a gift, which helps you out a lot. People who don't like you will sit at your feet. And they may never like you. They may never like you. I got some in my church now. I can't stand it, the man when he talks. And I've learned to embrace that because I haven't been called to friendship. I haven't been called to popularity. I've been called to usefulness. And so if I'm more concerned about perfecting my gift, I'm not tempted to water my gift down so that you can treat me like a friend. So if my gift intimidates you, that doesn't move me because that's not my problem. I want to adopt your issue with my growth. Does it make sense? So that enables you to do what scripture said, like set your face like flint. I'm not moved. I'm not moved by your jealousy at my growth. Because the same thing I know that got me to where I am, you can do yourself if you just take the initiative. So I become comfortable in myself and allow you to deal with your own internal clashes. But I will not play small because you view yourself as a giant in my shadow. A grasshopper in my shadow. Does it make sense? Can y'all handle that? Let's just stay right there because that felt like the room shifted a little bit. Y'all felt that, but you don't know if you want to feel that.
Okay, so Pastor, you had talked in a leadership meeting, like you said, places that's already established, occupied and all that. You taught us as leaders in leadership meeting that we are to submit and serve. That's the mindset we're supposed to have. When we go into places like that that's already established, whatever, go in, submit and serve. So I want to go back to when Trina and I was helping out over at Phyllis Wheatley. We was in leadership, we heard what you taught, and that's what we did. We went and submitted, and we served what we were asked to serve.
Right.
Okay? Because like you said, it does bring completion. But also, too, there were some people that was there, they didn't like us. They couldn't stand us. We was just doing what we were taught here to do, and we did exactly there. But I can honestly say that one woman in particular, I know that hated my guts. I never did anything to the woman. She ended up liking me and respecting me. And when we began to sit down and talk, I just began just to share with her just some of the notes that we get here at our church and leadership, not just show up and just do what what I've been taught and trying to do. But I can honestly say to this day, she my little buddy now. And so just last week, the Holy Spirit had laid on my heart. I called her and shared some stuff that the Lord had shared on me. And she broke down crying and she said, I'm gonna tell you, I thank God for you. She said, because I was getting ready to leave. I said, no, that's not what God wants you to do. I said, you were just on my heart and I was just praying and we began to talk. So I was sharing with her that, hey, we there for each other. And like I said, we are to do it to complete what needs to be. Absolutely. So it does happen for real, but don't be offended to it, and don't let it cause you, like I said, don't allow it to cause you to shrink back or numb down who you really are when you're genuinely being who you're supposed to be.
And maturity that needs to come out of this is that when you show up to serve, let me just ask. When you show up to serve, how should you serve? In what capacity should you serve? That's true. I wasn't looking for that, but that's good. As unto the Lord. That means for the spirit of excellence. What area should you volunteer in?
The area that you're good at.
Bingo. Bingo. We don't do that. We just use me. Wherever you need me to be, put me. No. I'm not completing if I'm out of place. I'm cluttering. I'm cluttering. So just your presence alone, you can, well, I'm here. No, you need to be here and right. So you need to know where your strengths and your assets are and plug it in. Does that make sense? And if your gifting isn't needed in a place, what do you do? Yes. Absolutely. Amen.
I have a question, Pastor.
Yes.
You talked about, don't water your gift down so that they treat you like a friend. Well, my issue is just a little bit opposite. And I was hoping that you could give me your wisdom on this. What if you're not accustomed to your light shining so bright, that when it does shine, you are the one that's trying to dim it? So it's not that other people are shrinking or causing you to shrink, but when other people want to put the light on you because of the gifting, you shrink back from that because you're not accustomed to the light, you're not accustomed to people coming to your light to that degree.
You need to ask God, help me not be selfish. Help me not be selfish, because normally we shrink because we're protecting ourselves from success, responsibility, accountability. And so it's not so much the light that we run from April, it's the demands that are now placed on us because people see you. They expect you to live out what they see. Does it make sense? And so we call back because I'm going to keep some for me. Does it make sense to you? And that's why we complain about, I got all these folks pulling in me. Because you got something to give. Now, if you're McDonald's and they're asking for a Whopper, that's different. But if they're asking for what you can give, what's your strength, what you develop, what God has told you about yourself, give. Why should you give? What's the benefit of you giving?
You get more.
Opening up to receive.
Say that again.
Because I'm opening myself up to receive.
From whom? That's absolutely. Absolutely. You know, if you're not going to empty out, quit asking for more. Does it make sense? Don't store it just for you. Okay, I hear you, Lord. When was the last time you saw a tree consume its own fruit? Why do you try to keep yours for you? You just want to be a tree with cute with fruit? Or do you want people to come and consume it? Because when we eat from the tree and we take all of its fruit, does it kill the tree? Doesn't it? Actually plucking the fruit does what to the tree, Milk? It strengthens the tree. And the next round of fruit, every round gets, my goodness.
Wow.
Does that make sense? But we're hoarding and not being the flow-throughs that God designed us to be. Does it make sense? Your goal was not to display fruit. Your goal was to give fruit away. And so with Solomon's situation, Solomon had to face giants, kings. They were giants. But these same people were converted by his gift. They were gift. And so God says, your gift shall make room for you. It is your gift that shall usher you in the presence of great men. Isn't that what he said? So in my pursuit of righteousness, I'm honing and developing what God has called me to do. And oftentimes that thing is what you neglect. Because you're too busy trying to develop a gift that looks good on somebody else.
Wow.
I want your life. I think God truly is a respectful person, and he should have called me to do something else.
just realized something that you said that we shouldn't cower our gift. Basically, around certain members of my family, I tend to dim my own light just so they will. I don't want to run them off. You know, I want to love them and show love to them, and I want them to. I don't want to push them away because it'll be. I feel as if it'll be too much for them because of their attitude and the way they are. So I try to just be enough just so I can fit in. But the other one, I can just be myself. And I'm like, wow, I do that.
So are you loving them? When you do that, are you loving them?
No, because I'm holding back.
Absolutely, because we talked this before. What does it mean to love somebody? Give them God. God is love, and so I'm going to give you the characteristics of God that has been developed in me. My gift is a reflection of how great God is. Because I'm a walking, living epistle, a testament of what God can do, especially in our families, people that we grew up with, where we used to be at the same level. And now, because of my trust in God, I've grown to become somebody else. But when I'm with you, I'm going to pretend we're at the same level. I'm giving you no incentive to grow.
Right. Sure.
And so even in my, see the deal is, my growth is supposed to frustrate you. Because most folk won't move until they first encounter frustration. Until you're tired of where you are, you won't pursue where you ought to be. Does that make sense? And if we came from the same house, we slept in the same bed, we got the same grandma, we got the same parents, just your presence is eliminating my excuses.
Wow.
We came from the same field. Does it make sense? Our thing is that when I'm been called to lead you, I play small so you can give to me. Because I understand that my growth is going to make you give me less. But you got to be okay with that. Because what should be most important? That I get what I want from you, or that I give you what God has assigned me to give? Does that make sense? Is that easy? Absolutely not. But is it required? You know what it is. You know what it is. Why does God put you in a place already occupied? It builds your faith in God and in yourself. When you contend and build in the face of opposition, it reassures you there's one thing that we all wonder. Did I really hear God? And they're right. And when people tell me, man, I'm 100% I heard the Lord, I'm like, you scare me with that. And normally the folks who say that kind of stuff ain't got no fruit. Have you noticed? They ain't getting nothing other than a tender ministry, and oftentimes when you stay a place for so long and you don't have fruit, you become divisive and aggravated.
Wow.
Because you can't appreciate the place unless you're doing what the place is asking you to do.
That's right. Jesus.
Did y'all get that? And so I'm going to do what God said, in spite of my fear, in spite of my opposition, and it reaffirms to me, first of all, that I did hear God, and also, watch this, that He picked the right person. That He should have called. He should have called. Amen.
Amen.
And so when He calls you again,
Yes, sir.
you have less resistance.
Right.
That's right.
Because God and I are building a track record.
Yeah.
I do hear God,
Yeah.
and I do have abilities. And so I can go to new levels of authority. And the last thing I resisted was just a tester anyway. It was small compared to what I can do. Let's think this is my favorite thing right here. Puts me somewhere that's already occupied because it's to build your resolve and your character. You gotta get this. Resolve, or my determination to complete a thing, is how I leave an impression on myself. Character is how I leave an impression on you. I'm responsible for both. I gotta handle me right and you. If I don't handle me well, you can give it up on me handling you right. Because I can't give you more than what I have. And so my determination makes me handle me right.
That's right.
And so when new situations, new opportunities, new requests by God comes up, I don't treat me like I'm a grasshopper. I don't treat me like I'm less than. I don't run to my excuses. I give God a quick yes. A scared yes, but a yes nonetheless, because I've seen through my track record, my own history, that I can do what God asked me to do. And I start to see myself differently. And long before anybody else can see you differently, you got to see you differently. So I'm leaving an indelible mark, a difficult to remove mark on my own soul based on how I handle me and my self-talk and what I say to me. I'm my greatest deterrent in life.
Can you repeat that, Pastor?
I'm my greatest deterrent, like how I've talked to me over the years has been way more effective than external obstacles. Because most of the time, I have to interpret to myself what the obstacle means. Does that make sense to you? And so I would tell myself, I would make my voice greater than God's and tell myself what I can't do. Giving myself an excuse to be disobedient. Does that make sense? So he puts you in a place that's not easy, so you can learn to talk to you better. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
You have to be to tell yourself, hey man, we've done this before. We've overcome more than this. We're smart. Calm down. You have to tell yourself sometimes, chill. Chill out. Why are you spazzing? We done did this before. Isn't that right? And so when I do that, then my character, my external demonstration of what takes place internally, now I can leave a better impression upon you. Now you know you can trust me because I finished things. You can trust me because my word is my bond. To be guarded around me all the time because you see me exercise self-control with myself. Does it make sense? What does it do to you in terms of doors and opportunities? It absolutely opens. Why does God do this again? All that look good, converting enemies to allies and all that. Here's the truth about life. Everybody ain't gonna be. Some enemies are meant to be converted. And so when they won't receive you, your gift, your value, it develops my focus, as Christine was saying. Not only develops my focus, here's the thing you gotta get. You're going to wrestle with and allow it to win. It develops my realization that they can't stop me. They might deter me, might throw me off of me, might serve as an obstacle for me. And so even if I have to go around the mountain to get to it, trust me that God already saw that I was going around the mountain. And so there's something on the backside of the mountain waiting for me. Y'all already know this. When you thought stuff wasn't going the way that it should go and you had to go another route to make it happen, you realize that God had left some goodness around you. Being the God who's already seen your life, you mad because you get an obstacle. God said, don't worry, I'll meet you around the corner. Just come on around the corner. I'm there with you. Just don't quit.
Amen.
Just don't quit on you. Hear that? On you. Other folks have the option to do what? Quit on you. You can't quit on you. I want you to see what happens. Can you see you there? You can see where you messed up? Anybody ever showed up competing instead of completing?
Yes, absolutely.
Your enemies made you run, turn down your light. We do that big time. Sometimes we gifted and we think that if I turn my light down, that'll convert my enemy.
Yes, sir.
No, let me just act less than so y'all like me.
Right.
But in actuality, we become enslaved. You never obtain freedom with an enemy by making yourself smaller. You become subject to their will. So, told you when we talked about David, every dimension, every place of progress, every place of promotion, there's an enemy there. Please understand that. And how you handle the contention where you are determines the speed and the amount of which you're promoted. How you handle your present and determines or qualifies you for the next level. And it's always going to be there. Let's talk about these. You see David out in the field. David, while shepherding the sheep, fights a lion and a bear, right? What is this fight that ought to relate to you? In the beginning of your journey, you have to prove that I'm willing to defend what I have stewardship over and not ownership over.
Jesus.
Hear that?
Wow.
The Bible says, unless you can be faithful of another man's business,
That's it right there.
you can't have your own.
That's it.
The sheep didn't belong to him. The sheep belonged to Jesse, his daddy. And so when the enemy came with the bear, came with the lion, come up, he didn't go, it's my responsibility. No, he said, I will place my life in front of my assignment. I will defend what I've been entrusted with, even though I don't have ownership of it.
Jesus.
Can I be? Because if I can't be faithful as a steward, I don't need to be rewarded as an owner. Hear that? Why you want your kid to take care of the room, their bedroom? They ain't paying the mortgage, they don't own nothing up in there. Why? I'm teaching you how to handle it when you own your own. And so if you don't have the character, gotta keep giving you opportunity to be entrusted with stuff, and you're gonna see how you handle it. When you manage it like it's yours. We frustrated. I just want mine. I don't want to sit here and babysit somebody else's stuff. Not realizing the blessing of being responsible for something you didn't even have to obtain.
Jesus.
You are being allowed to develop character, watch this, at somebody else's expense. If David does not protect the sheep, who's responsible for replenishing the sheep? Jesse.
Yeah,
It ain't David.
that's good.
And so David's dereliction of duty affects the owner more than himself.
Yes, sir.
So until you have that kind of heart, I'm going to take care of this like it's mine.
Wow.
Then you don't need to be entrusted with your own. Because I promise you, responsibility doesn't just click on when you got ownership.
That's true.
Amen. Prove it to you. You first got that car, it stayed clean, everything. About 2 or 3 months in it, if you weren't good with the last one, everything in your backseat now.
Oh, yeah.
Floorboards are dirty because I want you to take care. The newness of anything wears off. Doesn't it? It's your nature of toward responsibility. How well have you handled that? Are you asking for your own? God, just give me mine. I don't know what the Lord wants me to do. Probably ain't telling you because you ain't handling what you babysit. I feel like I need to sit down and I feel like I lost a friend. I'm gonna live my life. You know that ain't gonna happen. Y'all, and when folks look at me like they mad, they just, you look like the lion or the bear. Oh, you mad? Mad or just bad?
So could you say that one more time? You said in the beginning of my
Are you
journey-
mad, man? Well, what you mean?
You said, in the beginning of my journey, you was talking about David fighting the lion and the bear. He's like, I must defend.
I gotta defend what I don't own, but what I have stewardship over. Somebody trusted me. Watch this. Watch this. You know who else did that? God. He said, the earth is the Lord's, but do business till I come. All of these are my children. Train them up till I get back. Does that make sense? And so we don't get to rule with him until after we've here prove we can do stewardship. The Bible says when he comes back and when heaven and earth, he gives you a place to ownership. Right now you're a steward. He's trying to see how well you take care of what he owns.
That's all the last one, we really have any ownership of anything. You know, I just kept thinking about money, retire, and get it.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. So, absolutely. He says, if you give me the 10, I'll sanctify the 90. What does that mean? He says, I will protect it by showing you what to do. I will show you how to grow the 90, because on your own, you're blowing it all. You're blowing it all. Amen?
Amen.
He called it, like I said, you bring it home, you're good with holes in the bag. That's what he says. It's falling. So that's the first obstacle. It's one of the obstacles you got to get past, guys. Cannot be trusted with somebody else. How are you as an employee? How are you as a member of church? How are you with anything that you've been given responsibility for? Quit asking for more. Does that make sense? And see, here's the funny part about it. This how God will smack your hand sometimes. He'll let you go ahead and own something prematurely and send somebody like you to serve you. Somebody that act like you, the same approach to work, because then all of a sudden you believe in submission. Then all of a sudden you believe in responsibility because you know the buck stops with you. Does that make sense? All of a sudden we appreciate it when we're in the seat. Nobody believes in being on time until you're in charge of your meeting. Amen. You always late. Everybody else meeting. You finally in charge of a meeting. You roll your eyes, got folk tipping you like they didn't think you was gonna be on time. You ain't on time for nothing else. Niggas at 10, we know we ain't started at 10:15. Man.
It's real.
Amen. Ouch. In the next place, David got called up to the kingdom. Good. Saul becomes an enemy because David's growth in his gift becomes a threat. My take on this, it's probably going to be different than what you imagine. Saul becomes an enemy because David's growth in his gift becomes a threat. The statement seems to place emphasis on Saul, but let's talk about David. How did David handle this? Yes, sir. What did he say?
He submitted to God's will concerning Saul.
What was he? What was David protecting? Say again? Saul's kingdom? What'd y'all say? Somebody? Saul?
The position.
He protected the position. You honor the position even when the holder of the position isn't living up to your expectations. Am I making sense? Why would you do that? Watch this. You protect the position so it will be preserved when you get it. Does that make sense? Why would I destroy a position that I may have to rebuild the position when I get the position? I already have enough to fight. I don't need to destroy the reputation of the position. So I put it like this. I watch so many pastors attack other pastors in an effort to grow their ministry, not realizing you're just tarnishing the position of pastors. Tarnishing the position. So David protected the position that just so happened to be occupied by Saul.
Sir!
Does it make sense?
Jesus!
So that's why God can say stuff like this. Touch not. Because you're not just coming after the person, you're coming after the position.
My God, that's my Jesus.
Lord.
Does that make sense? So why make him a king later if he doesn't respect the office of the king?
Yeah, yeah.
Because David would soon learn that while in the office,
Yes, yes.
he didn't do everything right.
Yeah.
And see, most of the time, you have all these great expectations of people holding a position until you get the position and you realize the position didn't make me super. The position just gave me greater exposure, so a greater light is shined upon me, and I got greater expectations and demands of me while my character is still being processed in the position. Because oftentimes I get the position a little bit ahead of my character. And so it's the position, it's the calling that matures me. I don't mature outside of it. I got to get into it scared. With a little cluelessness motivates me. It motivates me to study because I really don't know what I'm doing. That's another reason why most of us don't accept what God's called us to, because you got to go in it with preset expectations, and you're ignorant.
It's true. It's true. Oh, yes, sir.
Which drives you to the principle of God that says, "No, you're getting." So what happens if I show up and it's requiring this, but I'm here? It makes me, if I want to get there, I got to be focused. It's teaching me discipline. Because they're already expecting, and I need to be able to deliver. So I need to do what God has said. Saying, let me get some understanding. Let me get, because I have people that are counting on me. And so I'm not growing because you're grading me. I'm growing because I love you, and I want to be able to deliver what the office demands of me. Does that make sense? That's why you hear me say, I appreciate y'all letting me grow up and talk. Because I'm still having to grow into this. Each year, it demands more of me, which means I gotta be different. I gotta grow. And I gotta grow while I'm in it. I don't get to go sit somewhere and perfect it, then come back, ta-da. No.
Right.
I gotta grow in it. Why, Lord? Because you gotta show them how to grow in it. And most of them won't appreciate you growing in it until they finally say yes to something.
Yeah.
When they find, I've had folks that just be so upset with me because they think I ought to be further along so they go out and go do something themselves. Then they call me on the phone, send me an email, buy me a gift. Pastor, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Because you don't know by observing. You only know by understanding. Understand means what? You gotta get in the middle of a thing. You don't understand nothing from the outside looking at it. Armchair quarterback don't ever make you a good athlete.
Oh, ho, ho, ho.
Until you actually have to run the route yourself.
Hello?
Quit acting like you would have caught every pass, made every shot. Ain't that right? You don't know what it, let me see you throw a straight pass with a 350-pound man coming at you. He should have made that pass. I'd have made that. You can't ball a piece of paper and throw it in the trash can. Somebody's hand was up, wasn't it? Tammy.
In the sermon Sunday, you were saying, sound like the place in me. And you were saying, like, say it out loud and take responsibility of it. And I know for me, oftentimes, I'll have self-talk, it'll stay in my head because I know, if I say it out loud, I really do have to own that place. And I'm not ready to, but I also understand that I've said it out loud prematurely. And thinking, okay, I'm gonna say this and this is who I am, but I haven't really gotten the understanding in that place, and then I've caused damage. So when you said that Sunday, that kind of just stuck out to me, to be more mindful of saying it out loud.
Yeah.
But do so with having that behind me, the understanding.
Or do so with the intention of getting ready to go get the understanding.
Okay.
Exactly.
Which says in my environment, hold me accountable.
Okay.
Because if I have before me, now we're gonna talk about the seed in a minute when we get to it. If I have before me an orange seed, I do know.
It's in the seed.
It's in the seed.
Okay.
Don't look like it yet, but it's in me.
Gotcha.
Just like the seed, I got a process to endure, but it's in me. Does that make sense? So whatever God's called you to, it's in me. I just keep avoiding the process. I just want the tree to pop out. I don't want to be buried. I don't want to be in darkness. I don't want heat and pressure. I don't want, we don't want root system because I'm growing and don't nobody know it. That's all the root system. I'm growing, ain't nobody celebrating me, ain't nobody applauding me. All this, look at this root system. Check out these roots. It's only when you complain about your hair. But that's part of the process. There's nobody with palms on the corner. You ain't never seen roots like that. And so the celebration doesn't begin, watch this, until the breakthrough.
Yes, sir.
You break up out of the place
Yes, sir.
that you've been hiding in. But when you break out, you're still at your most vulnerable. Strong root system, but now I'm contending with my environment. I got so many things trying to keep me from growing. That's life, y'all. The next thing, David becomes king, and he's now responsible for aggressively pursuing his enemies for the sake of the expansion. Here it is. Those first two has you, that's when you're on the defensive. I'm letting stuff come to me, seeing how I respond to it. But at a certain point in leadership, God says, now you go get it. Which means I voluntarily walk into the fight.
That's good.
I go find the territory, and I know it's a fight over there, but I'm going.
Yes, sir.
Most of us sit back, we don't fight till we're in a corner, so we're defensive. But after a while, you become offensive. Where they at? Where's that?
Yeah.
I'm ready, God, I'm ready. I'm gonna take some scars.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna put myself out there. I'm gonna go get into a fight, and I'm gonna lose some rounds.
Yes, sir.
I already know. It's not going to be a TKO. I'm not going to knock him out in the first round. I'm going to take some shots. This eye going to be fat. This lip going to be split. I'm going to be acting like this. I beat that boy. Oh, you did. Good no. Good no. I beat that boy. See some Cinephobia. Don't know what y'all laughing at. I beat that boy. All right. Oh, you did. Y'all Google that for the folk who don't ain't laughing.
Yeah.
Give me a little more time. I know we go off. Let me get you this real quick. So 64, Psalm 64 shows our tendency and the enemy's tactics so that we can have wisdom. Watch this, concerning ourselves, but also what the enemy is doing. God does not want you in the dark. He wants you not to be ignorant of the wiles of the devil. So I know what's going on, so it helps me not be so distracted by what's going on. I'm not blindsided. This is what normally happens. And so the first thing that normally hits you is fear. Every time you're ready to do something else for God, you become, the temptations become paralyzed by the anxiety or the anticipation.
Yes, sir.
It ain't even happened to you.
That's right.
Ain't nobody doing rob. Ain't nobody examining your credit. Ain't nobody doing nothing. You quit out the gate.
True.
You don't quit because you sit here and painted a whole picture of what's going to happen to you.
Right.
That's fear's design. That's fear's design. So God said, listen, it's going to happen every time. So quit asking God to take that away. Fear is a spirit. Paul talks about it in Corinthians. It is a spirit of fear. And so it is demonic influence showing up because you've invaded their territory. When you're thinking about going to another level, you came over to what they think they own. So kingdom suffer violence. So the violent have to take it. You ain't gonna skip to it. You gotta take it. They're not gonna park just because you showed up. You gotta take it. So you know that's gonna happen to you. When it hits you, realize that didn't come from within you. That came upon you. That's a difference. This ain't who I am. God says, I did not give you.
Yes, sir.
I didn't make that part of your makeup. So if you feel it, it came upon you. Which means you have power to tell it, never mind.
That's good.
Because if I'm self-contained, you're trying to convince me that God didn't give me what he said.
That's good.
Because even what God is asking me to do, remember this always. God says this about you. I can do all, how much?
All.
But he only asks for some.
All.
He asks for some. Your righteousness isn't all things. It's a thing.
Wow.
But I've been made to be able to do.
All.
So whatever he calls me to, I'm equipped to do it. So anything that says I can't is lying to me because it don't know that I'm made in the image of God. I'm self-contained.
I'm about to run. Me too.
God said, you gotta get that. God said, I made you. You can do it. All I gotta do is go get it. And I'm a bad somebody. But God said, I made you to do it, but I'm only gonna ask you for this. And so when you say I can't do that, you really don't know you. And you don't believe what God has said about you. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So watch this. When we tell God no, it really reveals to you the depth of your sickness.
Wow.
The depth of your affliction.
True. It's true.
How much the enemy has toyed with and damaged you. He hadn't taken your gift,
Yeah.
but it's how much you've received over the years. Whenever you can muster up a no, it's more evidence of how much you've been infected.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Does it make sense to you?
Yeah.
Because if God says I can do all things, but I'm saying that ain't revealing nothing about God. It's revealing about how much you've been conditioned.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That
sir.
makes sense? So I got to get over myself and get to myself. Because God's commandment is a revelation.
That's good.
There's a beginning, the book ends in Revelation. God is revealing what's in you. Okay.
I just want to say preach.
Yes.
And so that's you. That's what's going on with you. Here's what's going on over there. And it is happening. So you're not ignorant to it, but you still ought not be paralyzed for it. There is a camp rising up against you. It's normally initiated by one who wants to hide their hands. So they recruit. They recruit. That's why you see evildoers. They're trying to put some separation between you and them so that they remain anonymous. Because truth be told, they're cowards. That's why they fail later on, because what they don't realize, your enemy doesn't realize, is that when you draw folk to you, they're gonna have responsibilities. If you convince somebody that my fruit is no longer good for them to eat, they're gonna show up thinking that your fruit is at least as good.
Yes, sir. Oh, that's good. Yeah. That is the truth.
If it ain't as good,
Yes, sir.
eventually that's what exposes you after a while, because you dragged me away, and now we over there, we was eating good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you convinced me that the fruit wasn't good. Now we over here splitting a raisin. What did the prodigal son say? He said, in my father's house, even the lowest of servants. I'm over here trading with the swine.
My God. Yes, sir.
That's the Holy Spirit. And so but that ain't none of your business. I'm still functioning in my gift.
Yes, sir.
Scripture says in Isaiah 61 that the sons and not daughters shall come to the Lord rising. Rising. New Testament says if they could leave us, they never were relieved.
That's right.
God got it all covered. Come on, wipe your eyes, get on up. I know it hurt, but they won't reach you.
That's true.
But Lord, I just knew. You just thought.
Hey.
You thought they weren't with you. Because if they were, they could not. watch this, they could not leave the position. Even if they got upset with the position holder. Peter got upset with Christ a few times. Why wouldn't he leave? It looked dangerous. He had to leave his business, his wife, his sick mother-in-law, all this stuff. Why wouldn't he leave? Right there. He said, what comes out of you has a grip on me. Your words. When I went somewhere else, I ain't hear nobody sound like that.
Wow. That's good.
Even after you don't rebuke me. You shame me in front of everybody and call me sick. Because most of us, we trying to be bad, big and bad, and we tell our leader, you can't do that, and you get rebuked. You get the church down the street.
Yeah.
He's like, you like to lead, but don't nobody make me feel like you feel when you talk.
Yeah.
I got a sermon in my bag called "It's the Way You Talk to Me."
All right.
We'll preach it one day.
Yeah.
It has so many applications. It is. It's the way you talk to me that has me not being able to lead. Leave Michelle alone. And so the enemy's goal, hear that right there? As Proverbs 16:28 says, is to
Wow.
his tongue is like a sword. Because he wants when it's intimate, you already have a place. So it hurts me to watch you lead. It hurts me that somebody else's words can have you questioning mine. It hurts me that what somebody else said can have you questioning my motive. When I thought you saw me and knew me. That if there's ever been motivation to make you take your hand off the plow, that's it. That'll make you
Yes,
keep
sir.
pushing and crying. Pushing and crying.
Yes, sir.
And just looking, hoping they come back. And so that's the way God gets at you. I mean, the enemy is able to deter you in your stuff. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Wow.
What was that? 16. Is that right? Yeah, Proverbs 16. So the separation of intimate friends is designed to make you, and we over time, but y'all let me have a few minutes. I need you to see this. Gets you to forget seed, time, and harvest. That's what we've been alluding to a few minutes ago, but I gotta get you to see this. So when he separates you from people that you thought would be with you. If they ain't that close to you, don't bother you.
Yes, sir.
So I gotta come at somebody who forms some dependency on.
It's true.
Yeah.
Some familiarity with. I'm used to seeing you, hearing you. What it does, it makes you forget seed time harvest. Again, what that makes you do is forget that you are self-contained. Let us make man in our own image, says Elohim. He is the God, the plural God, Jehovah, the God that's self-contained. And so he made you, watch this, with everything you need where? In you. Everything outside of you is chosen. Everything outside of you is negotiable. What's non-negotiable was in you. There's no shadow turning. There is no gift that is going to be called back upon because God repents about it. What's in you. So he makes you self-contained. He calls it seed time and harvest because, as we just talked about with Tam, the tree, the seed shows up. He's the sower of seed, gives seeds to the sower because the tree is in the seed. And what the tree represents for us, that also represents you, is that the tree is a system of blessings. When the tree is nurtured like it should, how often does it produce fruit? In its season.
Yes, sir.
If it stays in the process. Now, is the tree useless in the winter?
No, it's not.
The tree is doing what? Preparing.
Yeah.
Preparing for the tree. And the things that done to the tree in the winter and the fall has what impact on the fruit now? In terms of the quality of it. And so even when I don't have anything to display, I'm working on my inner man.
Wow. Yeah.
So that when my time to be presented, what I present, you can taste and see that the Lord is. It is a system of blessing why. But the tree has to be planted in the soil of God's promises, because I'm standing in what he said, who he said I am. And so Proverbs 1, when I'm like a tree planted by the rivers of water, the river of life, I'm planted in the place God has given me. And he said, my leaves will not wither. I will not die no matter how much you object to me.
Wow.
No matter how much you wish for me to be unsuccessful. I'm going to bear this fruit.
That's right.
I'm going to produce it. And whether it's in front of 300 or 3,000 folks. My fruit is not the number that attracted to me. David don't count the people. My fruit is what comes up out of me. So if only 10 show up, the 10 going to get fed where? Does it make sense? That
Yes,
still
sir.
makes me effective and successful at being me. My success is not determined by the numbers. My success is determined by the fruit. I can't make you come and eat. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so inside the fruit are the future trees. The future trees are inside the fruit so that others can taste and see the Lord's good, but also that's the inheritance of your children. And so you see the seed that's inside the fruit, which means that we're going to be able to produce more and more and more and more and more of this. One tree, one seed can become a vineyard if we handle our gifting right. My family has become a source of blessings if we handle our giftings right. If you show them how to be a tree, then they'll know the power of being one themselves. They plant it where they're supposed to be. And where they're supposed to be, here it is. Where I'm supposed to be is not necessarily 9 Beth Drive. It's optional. It is. If you like the nutrients that we give with fertilizer we put on the tree, by all means stay and be fed. But the thing that's non-negotiable about my planting is that I stay planted in the promises of God. Does it make sense? Which means that if circumstances cause me to be uprooted, I was only uprooted in the location. I wasn't uprooted in the calling.
Right.
So I can take this fruit, just like they eat this fruit in Reba, they can eat this fruit in Charles, and this fruit in Pure. Am I making sense? Sometimes God will take your plant so they don't get that fruit. But when you want fruit that don't grow in South Carolina, you pay a premium to get it. You know what y'all call that?
Yeah.
That when he said, fruit that will remain.
Absolutely. It will remain if I know who I am. You tell me to stop talking to him? All right, that's it for tonight. Any questions? I was
Yes.
done anyway.
Yes, sir. A couple of Sundays ago, you talked about, experiencing a bottom. And
Yeah,
I-
no bottom.
Yes, I need to understand.
My faith is such where my faith is to be such where I don't need a bottom because I've never planned to come down. I'm only worried about touching the bottom if I think I'm coming down. But the way that I'm living with God, I'm expecting to keep going higher. Glory to glory. I don't need a safety net because I ain't coming down. And so I got to live like that with God. That every time you talk to me, it is an ascension. I'm going up to another place, to expose another level of me. So if I know that my assignment is to gain altitude until I die, I ain't worried about how far the ground is. Does it make sense?
Yes.
We're conscious of the bottom because we think we're going to hit it. I don't plan on coming down.
Yes, sir.
Glory to glory, faith to faith, constantly going higher. Does that make sense?
It's something else about it I'm not getting, and I don't know why, but it stuck with me when you said it, and it's been with me, and that's why I text you about it, because I want to know.
I want
But
you to
it's-
get it and come teach me.
I will.
Amen. Here, get it and come teach me. Come on, let's stand. Thank y'all for giving me the next time. I went over 50 minutes. Nah, you stop talking. Father, we're so grateful to have this garden to feed in this season. We're not going to be fixated with the future in terms of what we ought to be, where we ought to be down the road. But God, we're going to take full advantage of where we are now. To our fullest bloom where we planted, share our fruit. Share our fruit. I'm needy. something in me that you didn't place in my neighbor so that we can connect. I'm needed. My experiences are unique for my neighbor because you were fashioning what I was going to present, and they need it. I went through what I went through so they don't have to do it. I'm needed. Help me not be selfish.